Hey guys, Scotty here. I just wanted to give a little update to those who really didn't know or who are interested. But on Saturday, last Saturday, I ended up needing to take a stay at the St. Mary's psych unit because of some safety concerns. I was voluntary, and I did learn a lot, and I was scared going in because I wasn't sure how, you get a lot of stigma of things that you hear about and from what other people experience. But for someone who is very adamant on healing traumas and getting through mental health crises, it was very enlightening. Of course, it wasn't like the best stay. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it was like a vacation, obviously. But it was very needed, especially for how full my hypothetical cup was, and I was at that point a danger to myself. Thankfully, those around me saw that and did get help, and I'm super thankful for that. I learned a lot. I met people, heard their experiences, and sort of had an open mind to others around me in the community, and heard stories and learned some coping skills and uncovered a lot more about myself. One of the things that I learned while I was there that sort of really helped was journaling and how important that is, especially for somebody who has a very hard time with self-reflection and understanding the feelings and the thoughts of my inner child. And I did make a video on that for those who are sort of interested in what that is and how important that is. And so I started journaling, and I'm usually not a really good handwriter. I can type and stuff, but it was crazy to see how much it just flowed. I usually can only write a paragraph at a time. My hand cramps and you lose attention, I lose focus. But I was writing things and slamming out these ideas, and it was amazing to have that put down on paper. And it was very important to have that put down on paper. So I ended up doing that and reflecting a lot through journaling. It was super important. And in doing that, I sort of uncovered things that I wasn't really aware that I was so focused on. And I ended up getting a list together of triggers for me, things that if I experience or I see or I hear things of that nature, it could possibly trigger, flashbacks or traumatic memories or panic attacks. And I'd always gone through and had this, crippling RAD, reactive attachment, which is a type of trauma that develops when, a child isn't given a steady caretaker in their life, and they end up, having a hard time establishing relationships and trusting that they are loved. That's the big thing. That's a big thing. And so I wrote down all these triggers and what could possibly be flashbacks and things that could affect me. And I realized how many were just very insignificant. To somebody on the outside who would look at it, it would almost look like I'm overreacting. And I hear that sometimes, people say I'm sensitive, or I overreact, or I get upset easily. It's not necessarily that I'm upset or I'm sensitive. I mean, I'm acknowledging that I do have emotions, but a lot of these things are involuntary. They're reactions to this trauma that I've experienced, and a valid trauma, really. And a lot of people look at it, and it's so hard for people to understand how much it impacts me. And it doesn't seem like such a big universal thing. Oh, you were adopted at 4 and you had a couple foster care places before that. But that really messed me up. That created so much tension, doubt, insecurity inside here that it has developed into, I want to say, a screaming shadow that looms and just waits for those things to happen again, those moments, those triggers to happen, so that it can latch on and leech. And that's what I noticed. It wasn't the fact that the sort of spiral that brought me to a crisis moment was a simple, playful insult. It wasn't that. And on the outside, it looks like that. Why are you freaking out over a little thing like that? Why are you being so sensitive about things? You look like you're upset. Like, why are you being... It looks on the outside so minuscule. Why are you freaking out? Why are you having a panic attack? Calm down. Why? I wondered why. Even after, when I broke down after, freaking out, I wondered why. Why did that hurt me so deeply? Why was I feeling this weight pulling me down? Why did I feel as though I was going to die? I felt like I was going to, genuinely, over something so minuscule to outside people. And I wonder what caused that. And when talking with people and professionals, I realized that there's so much more that I just have not been addressing and I have not been looking at. And it like hit me that something so minuscule on the outside that people look at was a trigger for me, a very deep one. And at that moment, I flipped into my fight or flight, and unfortunately, it became a fight moment for me. Not a physical fight, but a verbal, like me defending myself with every last word that I had, because for some reason my brain thought that those things that people were saying were going to be the death of me. And that's what terrified me. And I didn't even know it consciously. I didn't even know that I felt like I was going to die, or I was being targeted, or I was the subject of some scheme, some hypothetical scheme to get me out of this family or to throw me away. But my brain believed that. With every last neuron, my brain believed that. And so what I did was I broke down and I projected. And that's a big thing that you learn, is projecting. I grabbed every last piece of ammunition that I had inside of me, and I projected that onto them. If I could project what I was feeling and my pain and my suffering and project that onto others, maybe that could justify what's going on. And maybe that could show them that there is more there. And so I projected and I projected, and I stopped, and it became real when I said some very horrible things about self-harm in front of all my family. I'm thankful that my nephews weren't there, because some of the things that I said, I believed and I held on to, but my crisis unit amplified that. And one of the things that I said is that nobody cares for you until you're dead and on a slab. At that moment, people will rush forward and say that they missed you and loved you and cared for you. And I said those with every meaning, and I meant it and I felt it. And the little boy that was inside of me that was screaming, that was suffering 20 years ago, he was screaming. He was trying to get out, and I stepped aside. You know, Scotty, 22-year-old Scotty, stepped aside for a moment, pushed away all the logic, and let that suffering child come through. And when he did, he said his piece. He broke down to a group of people that he genuinely believed did not want him in their lives. Genuinely believed. And I broke down after and realized sort of what had happened, and one of my brothers came and hugged me and just held me for, I want to say, like 5 minutes as I just cried in his arms, and he held me and he said, "You spoke things that I didn't understand, and you said things that resonated with me." And he squeezed me, and I needed that. And he said, "There are a lot of things that, I do that nobody really knows, and I hide, and I am the one who is reclusive, but there's so much that nobody understands. I know more than anyone here how that feels." And he held me, and I felt for those few minutes, I felt that connection with my brother that little boy needed. That sort of that final breakthrough moment that was finally somebody at least understands a little bit. And I know people understand, and I know people have sympathy and sometimes empathy with things, but to just have that and hold and embrace your brother, and at that moment just know that they understand, was something so profound. And I broke down, and the police came and asked me, if I was willing to go, and I was scared, I was nervous, but I was like, I think that little boy inside, I think he needs this. And I went and I checked in, and it was a little scary at first, but I, opened up, played solitaire, talked to people and listened to music and wrote. And it was honestly one of the most eye-opening 4 days of my life, because you are stripped of almost everything that you feel like is so a part of your life. You feel like you need these things, like my phone or my Spotify. You feel like you need those things, but then when they're taken away and you have other things and other connections and help and resources and journals and cards and stuff, you forget about those. And it was so eye-opening. And I went to all the groups that they had, all of the little group discussions, and I participated. And I opened up with my nurses and my doctors, and I have a plan, and I'm getting therapy soon to talk about this and to sort of let this little boy inside not break down and not lash out, but to just come forward for a while and talk about how he feels. Because an inner child is just like a whole nother soul. It is you. It is past you. It is past you there. And if there's trauma there, you can't cover up with I can't say 22-year-old me can cover up that child, and like now I'm, you know, I'm happy and I have all these things. If that child is still traumatized and had that trauma, it needs to be addressed. You can't glaze over that, you know? And I've been trying so hard to glaze over that and pretend like I'm happy and whatever, but I never, I like pushed that traumatized kid aside, and I never thought to work with him. I'd been ashamed of him and how he reacted and how he feels and how he inserts these negative thoughts. And I'd always pushed him aside and said, no, like, I'm not going to feel like that way today. You be quiet. And he had felt like that his entire existence, this 4 years, 5 years, that he was quiet. And he did not want to be quiet. He did not want to be quiet. And so he, instead of sitting down and being quiet, stood up and we're going to work together. And I'm not saying this as in like a genuine, like, oh, he's an actual person living inside me, but putting personification to this trauma is a way that I'm helping to sort of cope with it. And this little kid inside of me needs help. And just like I would help any child that I work with at Sandcastle or with my in-home support, that I would drop, I would take the shirt off my back for these kids and make sure that they are okay. I need to do that with that kid that's inside of me. I need to focus on him and help him heal and cope. And until I do that, he will continue to think that everybody thinks he's a burden and that he has nothing left in this world for him. And so I'm going to work together with him. I'm going to get the therapies that I need, the medications I need to take, and acknowledge that he is there. His feelings and his trauma are valid. And that's the only steps that I can take to sort of at least recover this. And I exited this facility with that profound knowledge and a couple more diagnoses that sort of helped me solidify, and some of those being, you know, major depressive disorder, recurrent, and a new PTSD diagnosis, which is important, and it connects to that, and I gotta work on that. And those traumas and those triggers have to be addressed, because it's not just depression that causes these outbursts or whatnot. It's the trauma of that traumatic moments that I get flashbacks and memories and nightmares about. And until I can work with that and get professional help and sit down with this traumatic child and work with him, until then, I have a lot of work to do, and I'm not going to be okay all the time. And I'm going to have my ups and my downs. And once I work with him and we talk and we develop something together, I feel like I will come to terms with myself, and I will be at peace with myself and that kid, and we'll be together, and we'll acknowledge that the trauma was still there, but we're more than our trauma, and we're more than our diagnoses and our medications. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to work with him like I was in the past. And I have to work with him to not think that everybody's out to get me, or everybody wants me dead, or everybody wants to abandon me. But the opposite, that everybody wants me here, and everybody loves me, and everybody cares for me. And I have to make that little boy believe that. And I have to believe that. So, thank you for taking the time to watch. Making videos like these is very important. It's very helpful for me to just let that out, and I feel like it's important to let the people in my life know what's going on with me, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. A lot of people say, you know, hey, just keep that to yourself, keep it in your journal, keep it to your professional, but it's important to let people know. And maybe there's somebody out there who feels the way that I do and is scared to get help, and is feeling the same way that I do, and maybe my experience and me sharing that can help somebody. And if that does, then that's that's enough for me. And I'm going to continue on this journey to make videos and post and talk about it because it's important. And it's what I'm passionate about. And I'm going to take this long weekend and I'm going to relax and I'm going to do the things that I love, and I'm going to love those around me and convince myself that I am loved, because I am. And you should do that too. Thanks again for watching, and I'll keep you guys updated. I love all of you. Be safe, be healthy, and don't forget to love each other. Seriously. Don't forget to love yourself.